I'm Megan Vickers, and I'm going to take you through all the tasks you can find in my book, Stronger, The Honest Guide to Healing and Rebuilding After Pregnancy and Birth. Here we're going to start with task 1, finding the floor of your pelvis. All you're going to need is a chair or a gym ball, something that you can sit on with both feet firmly on the floor and not be too slouched. Then you're going to take your hands onto your waist, drop down and find the bones of your pelvis. So you'll find these crested bones which roll forwards to points at the front and backwards to points at the back where it meets your spine. With the hands on the crest of your pelvis, I want you to imagine in your hands you have a bucket of water. And what you're going to do is spill some of that water out the front of the bucket. So you're going to roll forwards, arch your back, the bones at the front move down and your pelvis spills forwards. Now we're going to roll back. So we're going to tuck our tailbone underneath us, we're going to tip some water out of the back of the bucket, tuck our tail underneath us, notice how we become slouched. And we're just going to roll between those two positions. So whilst we're here and we're seated, you're going to get a lot of feedback from the surface you're sitting on. So I can feel the weight transfer to my tail, my coccyx at the back and my fleshy bottom. And as I roll forwards, I can feel that weight transfer more onto my pubic bone at the front and the back of my thighs. So we're just going to rock and roll and notice how easy it is to get into each position. And then I want you to think about, okay, so if that's as far back as I can go, as far into my tail as I can go, and as far forwards onto my pubic bone as I can go, where's halfway between the two? And we're just going to try and hold it there halfway and just notice how easy it is to hold it. Does it feel alien to us? Does it feel like a brand new thing or something that you feel like you're comfortable in holding? All right, the next bit is the floor of that pelvis. So you're going to find the two bones at the front, the two sitting bones at the back and at the bottom, the pubic bone and the tailbone. Now slung between all of these points, you have your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor spreads out like a hammock, attaching to the pubic bone at the front, the tail at the back, and the sitting bones either side. It spreads out as though imagine you're sitting on a handkerchief, spread between those 4 points. And at the moment, the handkerchief is quite relaxed. And if you think about those 4 points and you roll your pelvis again, I want you to notice what happens to them and therefore what happens to the floor of your pelvis, your pelvic floor. As we move the bones of our skeleton, the pelvic floor muscles will change shape as well. Now, which of those positions are better, with those bones together or apart? So if we move our bones too far apart, the muscle is going to struggle to shorten and tighten from that stretched position. If we move the bones too close together, they might be buckled and too lax in order to pull and gather up and pull tight. So what we're going to do again is find the neutral position, where those bones are not too far together and they're not too far apart. So in that neutral spine, halfway between those two positions, we're going to find and feel those 4 points again. So below the bones of your pelvis, drop down onto your sitting bones underneath, pubic bone at the front, tail at the back. Now imagine or feel between those 4 points, the muscle hammock, the pelvic floor, like a handkerchief you're sitting on. And what I want you to do is pull those 4 points together with your pelvic floor. Imagine between you and your chair there is a handkerchief, and I want to gather that handkerchief up. Now pull the handkerchief up through the middle of your body. Now lower that handkerchief back down onto the chair and think about spreading the handkerchief back out towards those 4 bones. Not pushing the handkerchief down, just letting it recoil, spreading it back out. Going again, those 4 points, feel them if you need to. Gather them together, bring them together, and then pull that handkerchief up through the middle of your body without changing your shape. Then lower the handkerchief down and release. And you can practice doing that in a tuck under and see how it feels to bring those 4 points together from that slack and buckled position, as well as releasing them and letting them go. You can also try it in that forward position with all the weight on the front bone, thinking about trying to pull those 4 points together and then bring up and in and release down, let it go. Maybe find where you find it easier. So for me, at either extreme, I definitely find that it's harder to use my pelvic floor. And in the middle position, that's where I can notice all 4 points, I can feel the gather of the muscle, and I can generate a little lift inside, like I'm almost lifting my pelvic floor up off of this chair. Release, let it go. And the last thing I want you to feel, notice and identify in this task is the connection between the floor of your pelvis and its walls. So just like that, when you're rebuilding a house, you start at the foundations, then you put the walls up around the outside. So I want you to feel into the very low part of your belly. And as you try and feel that handkerchief gather and lift, you should feel a gentle change in tone underneath your hands, almost like you're putting on a corset or tightening a bit of cling film around your low belly. Those muscles should pull tight, more tight. Lower the handkerchief down and let it go. You don't want to feel too much going in the upper tummy. It's just the deep tummy muscles, just around about your neckline, just below the top of your trousers. Again, gather the handkerchief, lift the handkerchief up and in, and notice what happens underneath your fingers. Can you feel that co-contraction of your deep tummy? Can you hold that handkerchief lift, that co-contraction, and breathe? And that is the foundations that we're going to use for tasks to come. Release, relax, let it go. And don't worry if you don't feel anything yet. We've got lots more tasks to come to help you identify each of those bits and to help you feel stronger.